What's up YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. Let's start at the bottom. First fight is Misha Kurinoff versus Daniel Jolly. And Daniel Jolly's taking this fight in like 10 days notice, and Misha Kurinoff had the 8 weeks. Both of these guys are making their debut, but just that fact alone makes me want to pick Misha. When you don't know too much about two guys, it's hard to pick the guy that had less notice, so I'm going to pick Misha. I say he wins by submission. Next is Shane Shamble versus Elias Silverio. And to me, Silverio could probably win this fight pretty easily if he used his grappling, but I don't think he is. I think he's going to try to kickbox with Shane, and I think that's going to give Shane a huge advantage in this fight. I think the longer they're kickboxing, the better chance Shane has to win by knockout, so I'm going to pick Shane by KO. I just don't think Elias is going to fight a smart fight. I think Chamble's just going to be able to pick him apart on the feet and eventually win by TKO. Next is Chris Kalades versus Chris Beal. This pretty much is a striker versus grappler matchup. They both, they have, Chris Beal has decent grappling and Kalades has decent striking, but it's clear who's got the big advantage where. I'll pick Kalades. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns and eventually win by submission. I just feel like Chris Beal, he looks a little too big for this weight class, and I think we saw it in this fight against Neil Sphiri. He slows down a little bit, and I think it's just because he's so muscular. I think he has a hard time keeping the pace that some of the other flyweights can. So I think the first two rounds will be close, but I think come the third, Kalades will win by submission. Next is Marcos de Lima versus Nikita Krylov. And I think de Lima is just going to win by KO pretty early in the first. I think he's the more explosive, better-looking fighter, especially at light heavyweight. I think de Lima fought at heavyweight, he just didn't look as good as he does at light heavyweight. He looks more, he doesn't look undersized, and he looks like a big light heavyweight. So I think he's going to win by knockout. Next is Felipe Arantes versus Yves Dubois. And this is striker versus striker, but to me, Arantes has much more tools when it comes to the grappling and the wrestling. And I feel like just the fact that he's way more diverse is going to get him the win. I say he wins by either decision or submission. I think he just mixes in takedowns and, just has better grappling overall than Dubois. I think that he'll eventually get the fight to the ground and win by submission. Next is Sam Stout versus Frankie Perez. And I feel like they're kind of feeding Sam Stout a win here because he's been such an exciting guy throughout the past. They kind of don't want to give him someone that's just going to beat him. They want to get him a win. And I think that's what this is. Frankie Perez, he doesn't look bad. He just doesn't look very good. I don't think he's UFC level yet. Maybe he will be in the future. But I think, as of right now, I think Stout is probably just going to pick him apart and win by, 30-27 decision. Next is Mariah Morris versus Voli Laturma. I'm going to pick Mariah Morris. I say she gets this fight to the ground pretty early and wins by submission. I think first round, first minute, in all honesty, she's going to get this fight to the ground and just win by submission. Next is Oliveira Mercer versus Tony Sims, and I feel like they're kind of just feeding Oliver a win. I think, just like Mariah Morris, I say Oliveira gets a takedown pretty early and wins by submission. Not too much to say about this fight. It just feels like they're kind of feeding some of their guys that need wins. Next is Chad Laprise versus Francisco Trinaldo, and both these guys have the same kind of weakness in that they get tired as the fight goes on, but the difference is that, Chad Laprise, he gets tired because he's constantly working, and Trinaldo gets tired because he's so big. And I feel like in this fight, Laprise is just going to be able to get points throughout the whole fight and probably win by decision. I just think he's more active, and both these guys get tired, but like I said, the reason why Laprise gets tired is because he's super active, and Trinaldo just gets tired. So I feel like Laprise's takedown defense and better striking is going to get him the decision win. Next is Patrick O'Tay versus Josh Berkman, and they're finally giving Josh Berkman a winnable fight. My God, the first two fights this dude had back in the UFC were two really good judo guys, which is like, the perfect counter to his style. It just felt like they were trying to fuck him over, and that's what, he lost two. The Hector Lombard fight got turned into a no contest, but I'm just saying, this is the first fight Josh Berkman's had since he got back in the UFC that I thought he could win. So I'm going to pick Berkman. I think his wrestling is much better than Cote's, and I think his overall jiu-jitsu game is much better than Cote's. I think the only area Cote has that is an advantage over him is like the striking, but I don't think it's a huge advantage, and I think Berkman will be able to get takedowns and probably win by guillotine. Next is Eric Silva versus Neil Magny. And this is, in my opinion, the hardest fight to call in the whole card, because if this fight gets past the first round, Neil Magny will win. If it doesn't, Silva's going to win. And I don't think it's getting out of the first round. I think Eric Silva is going to hit a takedown sooner or later and win by submission, or he's going to catch Neil Magny with something on the feet in the first. Like I said, this is really hard to pick, because if Neil Magny can survive the first round, which he has, I mean, I felt like he's fought guys that were better than him. He just needed to weather the storm, and he's done that, you know, like against Lim and against Marcio. And there's one other fighter, but you know, like I said, there's been fights where I felt like he was a big underdog and he just wasn't as good as the other guy, but he just waited until they got tired and then he picked them apart. And that's pretty much what this fight is too. If he can wait until Silva gets tired, then he'll just pick him apart and win because he's got better conditioning. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Silva's going to win by TKO or submission, so we'll see. And then finally is Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira, and to me, Charles Oliveira's won some fights, but he hasn't looked super great, in my opinion. I feel like the fight against Nick Lentz, they were both getting super tired, and he just kind of caught him in a guillotine. The fight against Jeremy Stevens, like I said, has been looking like shit. And then, you know, the Hatsuyoki fight was super close too. He just kind of caught him in a choke at the end. And the same thing with Andy Ogle. I thought, you know, the Andy Ogle fight could have went either way. He just caught him with a choke at the end. I don't think he's going to catch Max Holloway in a choke. I think Max is going to be able to keep this fight on the feet. And we saw in the Nick Lentz fight, I mean, it's not that hard to hurt Oliveira. You just got to be able to finish him. And I think Max Holloway will. I think when he does hurt Oliveira like that, he's going to hit him to the body, which is what Nick Lentz didn't do. And I think when he hits him to the body, we've seen Oliveira crumbles when he gets hit too much. And I think that's what's going to happen. Max is just going to put the volume on him once he hurts him, which he will. And he'll probably finish him. My guess is probably late first, early second. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.